I found out I wasn't invited to the annual family retreat from an email I was never meant to read. It was Tuesday. Rainy. I was sitting on my couch with a reheated cup of coffee when I accidentally opened the wrong Gmail account, the one I only use for receipts and job alerts. Right at the top was a forwarded email thread from my father's assistant. Subject: Retreat final guest list. Confirmed rooms plus meals. Normally, I would have deleted it without reading. But this time, curiosity had claws. There it was. A beautiful list of names, room assignments, and special dietary preferences. My older brother Nathan and his wife had the master suite. My sister Alicia and her fiancé were in the guest cottage. Even Aunt Lydia, who hadn't spoken to anyone since 2019, had a bunk in the shared cabin. My name was nowhere. At first, I thought it was a mistake. So I read on. And there it was, buried in a reply from my mother. We won't include Marissa this year. There simply isn't enough space, and with the wedding coming up, we want things calm.
Calm.
Like I was chaos. Like I didn't belong. I sat there for 10 full minutes, reading that sentence again and again. There simply isn't enough space. It wasn't about rooms. It never had been. Let me be clear, I've never been the dramatic one in the family. That's Alicia, all emotional swells and tears during charcuterie discussions. I've never been the golden child. That's Nathan, born with our father's jawline and our mother's ambition. I was the other one, the quiet one, the one who studied art history when everyone else chose business or medicine, the one who didn't bring a partner home for Christmas, the one who always smiled and helped wash dishes and tried, truly tried, to fit in. But fit implies there's space for you. And space, apparently, is what they didn't have. So I did what anyone with a laptop, a credit card, and a perfectly calm fury would do. I made a plan. Not to crash the retreat. Not to beg for inclusion. But to build something better. I started with a weekend Airbnb booking, just 2 miles down the lake from the retreat estate. Private dock. Fire pit. No shared walls. A haven for a nobody like me. Then I emailed the one cousin who still liked me, Jenna, and invited her to join me for an off-grid reset. She replied 5 minutes later.
Yes.
If I have to listen to Alicia cry over flower arrangements for one more day, I'll lose it. Send me the address. By Thursday, I had 3 more confirmations. Jenna, an old family friend who wasn't technically invited either, and Aunt Lydia, who apparently was on the original guest list, but was considering backing out. They only remembered me when they needed even numbers for the group hike, she'd said. I'll bring the good bourbon. I didn't respond to my parents. Didn't mention the email. Didn't ask if I could still come. I just packed. Books, a speaker, good cheese, and an old Polaroid camera Mom had given me at age 12, back when I was still allowed to be visible. On Friday morning, I checked into the lake house. The silence hit me like a hymn. Not the silence of exclusion. Not the silence of awkward pauses at family dinners. But the silence of possibility. There's something deeply satisfying about taking up space no one gave you permission to claim. That night, we made us mores by the fire pit. Aunt Lydia told stories about Grandma no one else dared share. Jenna danced barefoot on the dock to Fleetwood Mac. And I took a photo, a blurry, golden-cornered moment that felt more like family than anything I'd felt in years. Meanwhile, I knew the official family retreat had begun. Alicia would be posing for staged Instagram photos in a white crochet swimsuit. Nathan would be barking at the caterers. My parents would be telling stories that omitted me completely. And I would be remembered differently now. Because on Sunday morning I posted a photo. Just one. The dock. The lake. Our tiny fire pit glowing. Caption. Turns out there was space for me all along, just not there. That post exploded. Comments from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Private messages from second cousins who hadn't been invited either. Even Jenna's younger sister, the one in grad school, reshared it with the caption. Let's build our own tables. Then came the text. From my mother. Just 3 words. Can we talk? I didn't answer. Not yet. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is pause. Can we talk? 3 words. Just that. No apology. No context. No effort. It's strange how the people who silence you for years always expect you to break the silence first. My mother's text sat unread for 6 hours, not because I was angry, but because I wasn't sure if responding would reopen a door I had just learned to close. The truth? I wasn't ready to talk. Not after discovering I was excluded like a seat filler who'd served her purpose. Not after seeing how quickly my absence was swept under a rug. But the house down the lake, my lake house, was full of a different kind of energy now. The kind that doesn't beg. The kind that builds. Jenna woke up early and made coffee with cinnamon. Aunt Lydia scribbled a poem about becoming the matriarch of your own damn bloodline. Even the friend of a cousin who'd randomly joined us brought her guitar and played quietly on the dock like it was a sacred ritual. And me? I watched it unfold. Not as an afterthought. Not as a misfit. But as the one who had made it possible. By midday, that one photo I'd posted, the dock, the fire pit, had quietly gone viral within the micro-universe of our extended family. Aunt Caroline commented, "Didn't even know you weren't invited. This looks better anyway." Cousin Mark sent a DM.
Wait.
"You were left out? For real?" Even my godmother, who hadn't texted me since my college graduation, wrote, "So proud of you for doing your own thing. Your mother will come around." That last part was the problem, because I didn't want her to come around. I wanted her to reckon with it. By Sunday afternoon, the family retreats group photo went up on Alicia's feed. White linen dresses, tan khakis. Everyone smiling in that performative, chest-tightened way rich families do when they've swept conflict under the deck. But they were one short. No one said it, but everyone could feel it. Especially when Jenna, my cousin, Alicia's direct peer, posted our group photo an hour later. Campfire glow. No makeup. Barefoot. Laughing. Caption. Best weekend in years. Thanks, Marissa. Fallen leaf. It was subtle, but everyone saw it. That night, I got another message. This time from Nathan, my older brother. "Mom's upset. Says you're embarrassing the family online. Maybe take the post down?" That was the moment I realized something big. This wasn't just about a cabin. This was about visibility. They weren't upset because I was excluded. They were upset because I had the nerve to show people what exclusion looked like. So, I didn't respond. Instead, I did something worse. I posted a second photo. Me on the dock, holding a mug of coffee. Caption. Sometimes the best thing they do is not leave room for you, because that's how you learn to build your own. The messages escalated. Alicia sent a voice note, breathy and laced with that condescending softness only sisters can weaponize. "Look, I know things have been a little weird, but this trip wasn't meant to hurt you. It was just not the right moment. Don't make it a thing." Not the right moment? My whole life had been not the right moment. Not when Dad got sick. Not when I graduated. Not when I published my first article, or moved out, or went through that awful breakup alone. But it was never loud enough to count.
Until now.
Aunt Lydia watched me type a response and stopped me. "Write it. But don't send it yet." "Why not?" "Because they're not used to you being articulate and in control. Let it scare them a little." That night, after everyone went to bed, I opened my mother's message again. I typed 3 words. "I'm listening now." Then I deleted them. Because I wasn't.
Not yet.
Instead, I called Aunt Lydia into the living room. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "Why did you really come?" She smiled. "Because I've watched you disappear yourself for years. And I wanted to be here when you finally stopped." The fire crackled softly beside us. "You don't have to forgive them quickly," she added. "What if I don't want to forgive them at all?" "Then don't. There's no moral trophy for pretending things didn't hurt. Just make sure whatever you build from here isn't built around them. Build it around you." Monday morning brought something unexpected. An email from Grandpa's lawyer. Subject: Request for a meeting, Whitman Family Trust Amendment. Attached, a scanned PDF, an updated trust document, dated 3 months ago. It listed me, not as a backup, not as a contingency, but as a primary beneficiary of a new scholarship fund in his name, one he'd established for the member of the family most committed to independent legacy. I stared at the screen.
He'd seen me.
Even when my parents hadn't. And the best part? The board meeting for the fund was scheduled for next week, at the same family estate where the retreat had been held. An invitation was included. So I sat on the dock that night with Jenna and Lydia, watching the moon pull silver across the water. And I said, I think I'm going to the estate. To burn it down?
Jenna teased.
To plant something better. The Whitman estate hadn't changed.
Still massive.
Still overly landscaped. Still sterile in the way wealth tries to hide insecurity behind hydrangeas and stone fountains. I parked in the guest lot, my compact sedan wedged between Nathan's SUV and Alicia's fiancé's leased Tesla. The symbolism was loud, but I wasn't here for subtlety. I was here because someone, Grandpa, had written my name in ink. And no one could erase it now. The board meeting was held in the sunroom. The very one where I once sat quietly at age 12, cutting cheese cubes while my cousins played pool inside. This time, I walked in wearing tailored black slacks, a dark forest green blouse, and a calm that wasn't performative, it was earned. Nathan noticed me first. His eyebrows jumped a little before he forced a smirk. You made it.
Of course, I said.
Didn't want to miss a meeting I was summoned to. Alicia looked up from her phone.
Froze.
Then, Marissa, you look different. Power will do that to a woman. I replied, sitting down.
The air changed.
Not dramatically. Not loudly. But just enough. Grandpa's attorney, Mr. Ellman, entered with a manila folder and a dry cough. Good afternoon. We'll begin with the newly endowed Whitman Legacy Grant, established 3 months before Mr. Whitman's passing. He clicked open a small binder. This grant, as outlined in the attached trust amendment, assigns decision-making authority to 3 family members selected by Mr. Whitman himself. He paused, looking around. Those 3 are Nathan Whitman, Alicia Whitman, and, he looked up, Marissa Whitman. There it was, said out loud. No one could pretend they misread it. Alicia shifted in her seat. Nathan's jaw twitched. I didn't smile. But I did lean forward slightly, the kind of lean that says I'm not here by accident. The meeting moved into logistics, budget allocations,
Timeline.
PR statements. Every time Nathan spoke, it was clipped.
Forced.
Like his usual charm couldn't find its footing next to someone who wouldn't defer. When Alicia chimed in with a suggestion to name the grant after their father instead, Mr. Ellman gently corrected her. Your grandfather made it clear, this isn't about legacy by lineage. It's about legacy by action. The name stays. I felt her resentment buzz from across the table. It didn't sting. It clarified. After the meeting, as everyone filtered out, my mother appeared in the doorway. She didn't smile, didn't rush over, just stood there, clutching her purse like it was armor. You didn't answer my messages. I didn't think I needed to, I said softly. I didn't mean to hurt you, but you did. She looked away. Outside, gardeners clipped rose bushes that probably cost more than my rent. We didn't think you'd want to come. No, I said, standing fully now. You didn't think I belonged. Her eyes flickered. That's not. It's okay, I said. You're allowed to curate your version of the family. Just don't be surprised when people start preferring the version that sees them. I left without waiting for a response. Not out of cruelty, but because some chapters end without punctuation. That evening, I returned to the lake house. Jenna had made dinner, simple pasta with blistered tomatoes. Aunt Lydia brought over an old album of Grandpa's and told me the story of how he'd once turned down a gala invitation just to attend my middle school art show. He always knew, she said, sipping wine. Even when they didn't. I looked through the album. Found a photo I'd never seen. Me, age 9, sitting on Grandpa's lap holding a sketchbook. He's pointing at one of my drawings, smiling. Not proud. Present. That's when it hit me. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't even justice. It was recognition. The next day, I received an email from Mr. Ellman. Subject: personal note from your grandfather, enclosed. Inside, a scanned page. Handwritten. Marissa. In a family full of noise, you listened. In a house full of performance, you created. That's real legacy. That's why this fund, and the future, belongs partly to you. You were never invisible. You were just ahead of them.
Love. Grandpa.
I cried. But not out of grief. Out of confirmation. So when Alicia posted a carefully worded family photo 2 days later with the caption, "All the Whitmans in one place, 2 hearts," I didn't flinch, because I knew the comment section would do the rest. And more importantly, I had a meeting to attend with the nonprofit board we were partnering with for the new grant launch. Because this time, when they saved me a seat, I chose exactly where to sit. I stood behind the podium, heart steady. The room was modest, a community center auditorium with folding chairs and donated catering. No chandeliers, no jazz quartets. Just good lighting, press blazers, and a crowd of people who'd shown up because they believed in the idea behind the new grant. I cleared my throat. Read from a simple card. Legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you refuse to let die. A pause. The Whitman Legacy Grant isn't about wealth passed down. It's about visibility lifted up. It's for the students, the caregivers, the quiet creators who've been made to feel like space is a privilege, not a right. Scattered applause. Then a standing ovation from the front row. Aunt Lydia, Jenna, and our newest partner, a director from a youth advocacy nonprofit. What I didn't see, not at first, was Alicia, standing near the exit, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. The article went live that night. When you're left off the guest list and end up running the house. Published in a respected online journal. Shared thousands of times within hours. The quotes they pulled were sharp. Her family tried to protect tradition, but she ended up creating impact. Sometimes the best revenge is becoming the legacy they didn't think you could touch. I didn't write those lines, but I didn't mind them either. The next morning, the messages came in waves. Congratulatory texts, email inquiries, volunteer signups, and then a call from my mother. "We need to talk. Privately." I agreed, not because I owed her anything, but because clarity sometimes deserves to be delivered face to face. We met at her garden patio. White wicker furniture, mint tea steeping in porcelain cups. "I read the article," she began, not meeting my eyes. "Most people have. You didn't mention us." "Not directly. I didn't need to." She stiffened. "You've made your point." "Which one?" "That you're capable. That we underestimated you." "You didn't underestimate me," I said calmly. "You ignored me. There's a difference." She blinked. "I suppose I deserve that." I sipped the tea. "You deserve to see the full picture, not just the parts that are convenient." A long silence stretched between us. Then she sighed. "You know Alicia's struggling." I tilted my head. "Is that an excuse or a warning?" "She feels like you're taking over." "I'm taking what I was always willing to share, and you all refuse to give." 2 days later, I got a call from the nonprofit. Something was wrong with the press kit Alicia had submitted for the scholarship's launch. "It lists only 2 co-founders," the coordinator said. "Nathan and Alicia. You're not included." Silence. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm just deciding how to handle this." It was a power move. Intentional. Calculated.
Petty.
And utterly familiar. I could have called. Confronted. Demanded an apology. Instead, I drafted my own press release. With facts. Photos from the launch. Quotes from the speech. Testimonials from recipients who'd already reached out. I didn't send it to Alicia. I sent it to the press. And our donor list. And every board member of the nonprofit. The response? Immediate. And clean. Within 24 hours, the official press page was updated. 3 names, front and center. Nathan Whitman, Alicia Whitman, Marissa Whitman. In that order. But the quotes? All mine. The next day, I got a message from Nathan.
"Hey,
I know about the mix-up. I'll talk to her."
I didn't respond.
Because a mix-up doesn't happen twice. And I wasn't interested in band-aids for bullet wounds. Instead, I sent a private message to the program director. Please assign all future materials and media to go through the Central Foundation inbox. I'll handle approval myself.
Short.
Professional.
Permanent.
That Friday, I visited Grandpa's grave. Not out of sentiment, but out of alignment. I brought the article, placed it on the grass, and sat for a while in silence. They still don't get it, I whispered. But I do. And that's enough. Later, I hosted a small dinner at the lake house.
Candlelight.
Music. Scholarship recipients invited to share their journeys. One of them, a first-gen college student named Diana, stood up and said, "When you see someone take up space with grace, it makes room for you too." I didn't cry, but I felt something rearrange inside me, like I had finally come home, to a home I built myself. Alicia didn't show, but she posted a cryptic quote on her Instagram. Some people forget where they came from. Others forget who helped them get there. No names, but I knew, and so did everyone else. The next morning, Jenna texted me a screenshot of the post. "She's unraveling." "Let her," I replied. "I'm not holding the thread anymore." The invitation arrived in the form of an email with too many exclamation marks. "You're formally invited to the Whitman Foundation Honors Gala, celebrating this year's inaugural scholarship recipients." It was signed by the foundation's PR coordinator, but I could see Alicia's influence all over it. She always liked the shiny parts, the speeches, the cameras, the curated applause. The venue? A high-rise ballroom downtown. Black tie. Media confirmed. All the noise I had spent years trying to avoid. Still, I RSVP'd yes. Not because I wanted to be seen, but because I'd earned the right to stand in the room without shrinking. When I arrived, cameras were already flashing in the lobby. Alicia was posted near the entrance in a pearl-toned gown, giving off polished control like it was perfume. Nathan stood beside her, all smiles and tuxedo perfection. When she saw me, her eyes flicked up and down. "You look different." "I know." I wore deep navy satin. Not black, not trying to blend in. I walked in alone. And yet, somehow, every eye near the entrance followed me like I'd walked in with the truth. The early part of the evening was smooth. Cocktails. Mingling. Awkward handshakes with people who used to pretend not to know me. A donor, someone who hadn't spoken to me since my high school art show, leaned in and said, "I heard you're the reason the foundation actually functions now." I didn't deny it, because it was true. Then came the program. Each co-founder would introduce one recipient. Alicia had the first lot, followed by Nathan. I was last. She glided on stage with all the grace of a practiced speaker, mentioned her commitment to legacy, thanked the family, made vague nods toward the next generation. She ended with a proud smile as applause filled the room. Nathan followed with ease. A dad joke. A warm anecdote about Grandpa. The audience laughed on cue. Then my name was called. I stepped up to the podium, notes in hand. The lights dimmed slightly. Just enough to feel dramatic. Just enough to feel like everyone was waiting for the moment to fall flat. "My name is Marissa Whitman," I began. "I wasn't born into the center of this family. I carved space from its edges." The room shifted. Quiet. Curious. When this scholarship was first proposed, I wasn't invited to the meeting. I wasn't asked to co-sign the idea. I wasn't even on the email. A few murmurs. From the corner of my eye, I saw Alicia stiffen. But sometimes, the greatest thing people can do for you is underestimate you. Because when they do, you get to write your story your way. Applause. Not scattered. Strong. This year's recipient didn't grow up in a house full of yes. She didn't have endless praise or money or even peace. But she showed up. She persisted. And she's about to change the world. I called the recipient's name. She walked on stage crying. And we hugged, not like strangers, like women who knew. After the ceremony, the atmosphere was different. People approached me, not just to congratulate, but to connect. I wasn't a shadow anymore. I was gravity. Later, I found Alicia at the edge of the ballroom, fiddling with her empty champagne glass. "You ambushed the room," she said. "No," I replied. I filled a silence. You think you're better now? I think I was always worth listening to. There it was. No yelling. No scene. Just truth. Clear, sharp, and echoing deeper than any applause. Before I left, the director of the youth advocacy nonprofit pulled me aside. We'd like you to serve as lead advisor next year. Not just for the Whitman grant, but for the entire mentorship division. I blinked. Are you sure? You made a room full of power players feel something. That's not luck. That's voice. I walked back to my car alone. No driver. No valet flash. Just me, carrying my shoes and a folded program, watching the city sparkle through the windows of buildings that once felt off-limits. I didn't want a crown. I didn't need the throne. I just wanted to know that when I spoke, they'd stop pretending they couldn't hear me. And they had. It was a Thursday when the call came, the kind of ordinary day that makes bad news feel like an ambush. I was reviewing next year's scholarship applications when my phone buzzed. Nathan. I let it ring twice. Picked up. It's Mom, he said. She collapsed at her club. They're keeping her overnight. There was no small talk. No buffer. Just news. And the strangest part? There was no bitterness in his voice. Just urgency. She asked for you. The hospital smelled like sterile expectation. Beige walls. Quiet beeps. Nurses with practiced calm. I hadn't seen my mother in person since the gala. The woman who once carefully edited me out of holiday invitations now lay in a thin gown, an oxygen monitor wrapped around her finger, looking like someone whose armor had finally cracked. Her eyes fluttered open as I entered. For a moment, there was confusion, then recognition, then something softer. You came. You asked. She nodded. They thought it was a stroke. It wasn't. I didn't sit. Not yet. They say stress. Heart stuff. Blood pressure. They're not sure. Silence. You didn't have to come, she added. I know, I said. That's why it matters that I did. We sat in that sterile stillness for a while. Then she said it, not dramatically, not even directly. I haven't known how to talk to you. For years. That was the closest thing to an apology I was ever going to get. Then just listen, I said. And she did. I told her about the foundation's growth. The students. The letters. The late nights. I told her how Aunt Lydia was still bringing bourbon to board meetings. How Jenna was now working part-time for the mentorship program. How I'd learned to cook. For real. And when I finished, she said nothing. She just reached out, gently, and squeezed my hand. It wasn't healing, but it was acknowledgement. Nathan and Alicia arrived an hour later. Their voices were too loud. Their concern a little too polished. Nathan launched into questions about doctors and timelines. Alicia dropped off a basket with silk ribbon, like the kind you'd send to a colleague. I watched their performances. Felt no anger. Just distance. And clarity. Later, outside the room, Alicia pulled me aside. She's different, she said. Are you? She hesitated. This isn't a competition, Marissa. It never was. That's what made it unfair. Before I left, Mom stopped me again. You always wanted more from me. I wanted the truth. Well, she looked down at the foreline. The truth is, I thought I was protecting you. From disappointment. From the pressure. You protected me from visibility. Which is worse. Silence. Then she nodded. It was the first time I saw her see me, not as a wild card or a burden, but as a whole person. You'll take care of things if I'm not around. You mean the estate? Everything. I didn't say yes. Didn't say no. I just said, I'll make sure the truth doesn't get buried again. The next day, I received a letter. Not an email. A letter. Handwritten. From her. Marissa, if you're reading this, I'm likely resting. Or recovering. Or thinking too much about time I can't get back. I watched you from a distance for years. Not because I didn't love you, but because I didn't understand how someone like you could be so clear without needing approval. You scared me. In the best way. And I hope someday you forgive me not for what I said, but for what I didn't say when it mattered. You're the kind of daughter a family forgets they need until it's almost too late. Love.
Mom.
I cried. Not for the letter, but for the girl I used to be, who would have done anything to hear those words 10 years ago.
Now?
Now I knew they weren't my salvation. They were a receipt of everything I'd already built without them. The Foundation's fall campaign launched the next week. Alicia offered to help. I thanked her, but told her I had it covered. And I did. The family estate looked smaller in the fall. Maybe it was the browning leaves, or the way silence hung heavier after the gala season ended. Maybe it was me, older now, or just clearer. I had returned, but not to visit. I came to make a decision. The family lawyer, Mr. Ellman, met me in the study, the same one where I was once told not to touch anything. He handed me an envelope stamped with the Whitman seal. Inside, legal documents. A transfer of partial control. Your mother updated the trust, he explained. She wants you to take over operations if her health declines again. Did she tell Alicia? She didn't have to. Alicia declined it herself. I blinked. Not out of shock, but because power handed over willingly is rarer than the kind wrestled away. What changed? I think she saw that this wasn't a stage. It's a structure. And you built it. I walked the garden path alone after that. The same path where I used to trail behind everyone else, holding napkins and questions that were never answered. This time, I walked ahead, stopped at the fountain, ran my fingers through the water. No ghosts followed me now. Only echoes. And echoes don't own you. Back at the lake house, Aunt Lydia was waiting on the porch, arms folded. How does it feel? She asked. Like I'm the executor of a legacy I didn't ask to inherit. No one ever does, she smiled. But at least now it's yours. Inside, I found a small stack of envelopes left by one of the program assistants. Letters from this year's scholarship recipients. I opened one. Dear Marissa, I grew up thinking girls like me weren't meant to be noticed. That being quiet meant being invisible.
Then I saw you speak.
You didn't ask for space. You filled it like you were born with it. Thank you for showing me what we're allowed to become. L. 19.
I held the letter to my chest.
Exhaled. That weekend, the Foundation hosted a private retreat. Not at the estate, but at the lake. No guest list politics. No legacy games. Just mentors, recipients, and stories. We cooked together.
Laughed.
Built a fire that didn't need permission to burn. Alicia came on the final day. She didn't bring flowers or apologies, just herself, in flats and a cardigan, no entourage. You built something, she said, looking around, without burning anything down. Sometimes you can do both. We shared a smile, cautious, but real. Before she left, she handed me a box. Inside, an old photo album. Pages I hadn't seen in years. There I was, age 5, sitting on my mother's lap, drawing stick figures in a blue notebook. My name, scribbled in the margins like I was always trying to make myself visible. And there it was, written in the corner in Grandpa's handwriting. Marissa sees what others miss. That night, as the fire died down and people filtered to their rooms, I stayed out on the dock. The lake shimmered, still, full, unbothered. And I whispered to the water. I didn't take their place. I just stopped asking for it. Because that's the truth. I didn't win the family back. I won myself back. In pieces, in pauses, in quiet steps they never heard but always felt. And that was enough.